Yeah, I think Madam CJ, she came out with 19 Teens.
Yeah.
And she was a well-known entrepreneur. And the media was starting to make, we had newspapers in heavy circulation, and there was more media. But in Biddy Mason's day, I think Biddy died in 1890, around 1890 she died. There's not a lot of coverage of what was going on in the country in 1890, but yeah.
Speaking of Madam C.J. Walker, she created the concept of direct marketing. What Avon does and Mary Kay and all of that started with her. Direct marketing, where you have different groups of people, you sell to them and then they sell to somebody, they sell somebody, that multi-level marketing, that started with her. Nobody was doing that before Madam C.J. Walker with her products. Nobody. And they were doing it because of segregation. Because you couldn't really go out to certain places. So you had to create networks where you're safe and you knew the people and they knew the people, because you just couldn't be walking around all willy-nilly. So that inadvertently created direct marketing, which is what we see today. White people said, hey, this woman made all that money doing direct marketing. Let's do that too.
Yeah. Back to the racism in LA. When black people left the South during the 30s and 40s, they thought they were leaving racism to come to a better place. But what do you think it was like when a black person in the 1930s that's like, man, I'm getting out of Louisiana, I'm tired of these people, I'm tired of these white folks, I'm going to LA. And they get here and they find out like, wow.
You find the same thing.
It's the same shit,
You go your ass over to Central Avenue. And the great thing about us, man, our family, they moved somewhere and make it pop off. Central Avenue was popping. They said, you guys can only be in Central Avenue. They made Central Avenue the spot in LA. Everybody, white celebrities were going down to Central Avenue. There's pictures of Marilyn Monroe at some of the black clubs down there. And what happens when we get too successful at something, they find a way to sabotage it. The 110 freeway, which runs right parallel to it, that's one of the things that destroyed Central Avenue. Whenever you put a freeway or a train station somewhere near a business community, inadvertently that's going to destroy it. They did that down in Miami. They had a very prosperous area in Miami. They did that too. In Detroit, Hastings Avenue was a prosperous place. They did that. They're doing it now on Crenshaw. I was just on Crenshaw just a few minutes ago. The black businesses there are just disappearing. They're building the train over there, right down Crenshaw. So that thwarted a lot of the progress, which is by design, because now when a lot of the black business owners move out, the white people are going to come in and swoop and get that land for cheap, and then they're going to revitalize it later. Because I tried to buy several properties on Crenshaw, right over there in the Leimert Park area, and they gave us all types of runaround. There were some black people who tried to put in a bid for the Crenshaw Mall. They put in more money, and then some Russian oligarchs came in under them with less money and got the property, you see?
Yeah, they're really doing a number on South Los Angeles.
They are, man. They are. Man, I'm telling you, we went in some of these places with cash in hand. Like, how much is it? That's the price. We don't even have to go to a bank. We'll forward you the money today or whenever you need a deposit. And they just gave us the runaround on Crenshaw. Like I told you earlier, we're getting the museum right down the street on Jefferson. But the gentrification out here is serious, and the way they target people who are trying to do black business out here, it's real. The racism has not gone anywhere.
Okay, I want to get into some of that gentrification stuff, but
yes,
I want to go back to, we're talking about Biddy Mason,
yes,
Madam C.J. Walker. When you started learning about these people, did this inspire you to say, "Hey, I want to do a documentary. I'm done with the relationship stuff. I want to move to some more historical stuff that talks about our people"? Is that kind of what inspired it?
When I started doing the Hidden Colors series, 2010, that's when I started doing it. I started doing it because I saw what was happening in the media and I saw what was happening in the community. And I said, look, Obama was still in office, and I try to have some type of forethought of what might happen in the future. It came to my realization, I said, well, we got a black president, but there's going to be a backlash. There's going to be a major backlash when this guy gets out of office. Also in the media at the time, 2010, the stuff you saw in the movies, The Help, The Blind Side, The Butler, it was a bunch of Precious. It was these movies, we were getting inundated with images of us just derogatory, looking negative, being subservient, being slaves and mammies. I said, psychologically, that damages a people. So I said, somebody needs to do a film talking about the positive attributes of black people. And many people in the community was like, somebody needs to do it, somebody needs to do it. And then we get into the habit of saying somebody needs to do something. The somebody is us. Yeah. We need to do the shit. So I said, look, I've worked in television. I know how to, hire film crews. I've been around backstage and behind the scenes seeing how things work. I said, let me try this. Let me try to do a movie talking about Black history. Let me get a bunch of scholars that I like, people that I've learned from over the years, because I would, again, even doing my relationship books, and I was inspired by Shahrazad Ali. She's one of my idols, and I was reading her books back in the early 90s. And she did relationship books too, but she always did it from a conscious perspective. So I got her, I got Dr. Welsing, and so many other people that I respected and loved. We all got in the movie. We did Hidden Colors 1. Now, no other movie had been done like Hidden Colors before. Nothing. Where you're talking about Black history, but you're going after white supremacy and calling it by name. See, some people talk about Black history, but they don't never really put it in the context of white supremacy. We went through some trials and tribulations. We had some segregation.
So you're talking about someone like Professor Gates out of Harvard?
Oh, yeah, Skip. Skip the truth. They call him Skip the Truth, yeah.
He doesn't go as hard as he could.
He don't go as hard. He's real lightweight on it.
Well, he's a Harvard guy, right? He's got to walk delicately?
Yes, he does. That's where he gets his money from. He's a boule guy. He gets his money from these white people.
But some of his information, I don't want to really throw him under the bus. I mean, I learned a lot from Skip over the years, but he can go harder.
Yeah, he knows. But again, he knows where the money comes from, though. I got some books by Skip Gates did a series of books, I think with Yale or some university, whatever. But they did some books talking about the African art or Black art in Europe, and these are like very expensive books, but they're beautifully done, a lot of pictures. So I got books with Skip Gates. So he knows the truth and he knows the information, but again, when you're getting money from the dominant society, you're not going to go that hard on him. People criticize Skip Gates in one of his series that he did on PBS. They found out that Ben Affleck's family was slave owners, and Skip Gates was working behind the scenes to hide that shit because he didn't want to embarrass Ben Affleck. So he does little stuff like that. We don't do stuff like that. You watch my movies, everybody's gonna get this damn work. Because we don't get our money from the dominant society. We raise our money up on a grassroots level so we can go hard. So we put that movie out. I remember sitting in the movie theater because we got a theatrical release and the whole shebang. No other film had been done like this. And I'm sitting in the theater with a hat on in the front row. So this shit is, if people don't like it, I'm gonna sneak out of here. And the movie was 2.5 hours long. And I'm thinking, okay, are people gonna be bored? Is this too much? Is it too little? And we got a standing ovation. People didn't want to leave the theater. The movie took off, man, and the series, the Hidden Colors series is the biggest selling Black history series ever. No other film series about Black history is more successful than Hidden Colors.
When did you achieve that? At what part did you put out when it got to that point?
It started with part one. Part one was a huge seller. And again, all of them were huge sellers. Every time we put one out, it outsells the next. For some reason, Hidden Colors 4, I do not know why, but that one, for some reason, that sold more than all of them. I don't know what it is about Hidden Colors 4, but the numbers, we looked at certain numbers from certain film websites, and that movie, Hidden Colors 4, I think it came out in maybe 2018, something like that. I don't know why that film outsold so many of them. I don't know why, but my latest movie, Buck Breaking, that was a huge seller too. And that exposed some of the sexual racism, exploitation that comes from the dominant society historically.
Now, the latest movie you just mentioned, are you still doing movies and distributing them on DVDs?
Mm-hmm. We do them on DVDs, streaming, and we always have a theatrical release. Buck Breaking, we didn't do a theatrical release because of the COVID, because we couldn't get the theaters at the time. But usually we do a theatrical run, and then we put them on DVD and streaming. Okay.
Well, back to the Hidden Colors. I mean, you've managed to interview some of the most prominent experts on Black and African history. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites is Claude Anderson.
Yes, indeed.
Speak on him for a moment.
Yeah, Claude Anderson, and Claude said he was, Dr. Anderson said he was pretty much retired, because he'd been trying to give out this information for years, and he's like, Black folks ain't trying to listen. So nah, we got to get that brother out of retirement. We put him in Hidden Colors 2. People loved him. They fell in love with that brother, and he's been back on the scene ever since, man. So we are proud to introduce these great scholars to a whole new generation of people. Dr. Welsing had basically retired to a certain degree. We introduced her to a whole new generation of people. So now they get to see these wonderful people that we grew up on and learned from.
Now, Dr. Anderson said something real interesting in part 2. He said, stop lying to black people to vote. Vote for what? Ain't no one going to do anything for black votes in politics. Politics is controlled by money. It's very controversial to tell people don't vote because it's a waste of time. And I rarely vote because I think it is a waste of time.
Yeah.
But I don't tell people not to vote. He took it, he went hard.
Yeah.
He said, you're wasting your time. What's your position on that?
I share the same position as Dr. Anderson. He's spitting some good game. Don't vote unless we're getting something for it. We're told to vote just for the sake of voting. We're told to vote for symbolic reasons. Vote because your grandma fought in Selma. That's a bullshit reason to vote. Your grandma didn't fight just to vote for the sake of voting. They wanted something for the vote. And with black people, we're told that we have to vote to help everybody else except ourselves. We got to vote to help immigration. We got to vote to help LGBT. We got to vote to help Obamacare for everybody. That's a slave mentality where we have to sacrifice things for ourselves so that everybody can benefit. That's slavery. That's exactly what slavery was. We had to work on the plantation so that everybody else can eat. Damn that. If we're going to vote, we got to get something for our vote. That's why the reparations movement is so heavy right now. We're letting the politicians know we want tangibles. We want reparations specifically for foundational black Americans if you want us to continue to vote.